William Byron is, by almost universal agreement, the calmest man in the NASCAR garage. He is the analytical one, the measured one, the driver who, no matter how badly a night is going, gets on the radio and sounds like he's reading a weather report. Engineers love him because he gives clean, unemotional, useful feedback. In an era of screaming radios and post-race shoving matches, Byron has built an entire identity around not losing his composure. And on Sunday night at Atlanta, that composure finally cracked. Live, on the broadcast, for everyone to hear. He told his crew chief his car was terrible. He swore. And the frustration in his voice was so unusual that reporters who cover this sport every single week immediately flagged it as something they almost never hear from this particular driver. But here's the detail that turns this from a bad night into a genuinely fascinating story. And it's the part almost nobody is telling you. This happened at Atlanta. And Atlanta isn't just some random track for William Byron. It is one of the tracks he has actually mastered. He is a two-time Cup Series winner at this exact Speedway. So the question isn't just why Byron got frustrated, it's why the driver who has conquered this place twice couldn't get his car to work at all, and why it ended up costing him a shot at $1 million. Stay with me. Welcome back to Freedom Line News, the channel where we don't just chase the drama, we break down what really happened. If you're new, hit subscribe. This community is growing every week. Let's get into it. Let's build this properly because the frustration didn't come out of nowhere. It started on Saturday in qualifying, and it started badly. William Byron, a driver in a Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, one of the best-funded, best-engineered operations in NASCAR, qualified 26th. 26th! That was significant enough that analysts covering the session specifically singled it out as one of the genuine surprises of qualifying. When a Hendrick car rolls off outside the top 25 at a drafting track, something is already wrong before the green flag has even flown. And at Atlanta, a bad starting spot is not a minor inconvenience. Remember what this track has become. Since the 2022 reconfiguration, 28 degrees of banking, the racing groove narrowed down to just 40 feet, Atlanta functions like a super speedway. The cars run in enormous, tightly packed drafting bunches, bumper to bumper, at nearly 200 miles an hour. And when you're buried mid-pack in that environment, in a car that isn't handling properly, you are not just slow, you are trapped. You are stuck in dirty air, getting shuffled backward, with nowhere to go and no clean track to work with. Which is exactly where William Byron found himself as the laps ticked away on Sunday night. And then came the moment everybody is talking about. Byron got on the radio with his crew chief, Rudy Fugle, and he did not sound remotely like the William Byron everybody knows. He told Fugle, in blunt terms, that he was plowing, and here the broadcast had to censor him, plowing his tail off, and that the car was terrible. Just flat, raw, unfiltered frustration. No engineering language, no measured feedback. Just a driver who had reached the absolute end of his patience. Now, Fugle's response was calm. He acknowledged it, told Byron to do what he could, and pointed out that lightning was closing in, and they weren't quite at the halfway point yet. But the exchange kept going, back and forth, and by the end of it, it was clear this was not a normal radio conversation. And this is the thing to really understand about why it mattered. TNT chose to air this exchange on the broadcast specifically because of how unusual it was. Reporters who cover this sport week in and week out immediately pointed out that it is rare, genuinely rare, to hear this level of frustration from either William Byron or Rudy Fugle. These two men are known throughout the garage for being level-headed and analytical. That is their entire professional reputation. So when both of them sound rattled on the same night, that tells you the car underneath Byron wasn't just slightly off. It was, by his own description, essentially undrivable. And then the sky opened up. On lap 108, with the race not even at its halfway point, lightning moved close enough to the speedway that NASCAR threw the red flag. The cars were parked on pit road. Covers went on over the cockpits. Drivers were ordered out of their cars entirely. And then everybody sat and waited, for hours. It was the second weather hold of the day, after an earlier stoppage had already shut the track down that afternoon. The field wouldn't fire engines again until late into the night. Now here's where the knife really twists for William Byron. Sunday's race was the quarterfinal round of NASCAR's in-season challenge, the bracket-style tournament that has been running through the summer, with a $1 million prize waiting for the eventual winner at Indianapolis at the end of the month. 8 drivers were still alive heading into Atlanta, and Byron's head-to-head matchup? Ryan Blaney. The same Ryan Blaney who had won the pole on Saturday. The same Ryan Blaney who led 86 of the first 108 laps. the same Ryan Blaney who went on to win the entire race outright. So while Byron was fighting a car he was openly describing as terrible, buried deep in the field, the exact man he needed to beat was up front, leading and dominating the night. When the checkered flag finally fell, Byron finished 17th. Blaney won. And with that, Byron was eliminated from the tournament on the spot. $1 million opportunity, gone, on a night when his car simply refused to cooperate with him. So here's where I want to push back on how this story is being framed elsewhere. Because the lazy version of it is, William Byron loses his cool. And that framing completely misses the point. Think about who this driver actually is, and what he has already accomplished at this specific racetrack. William Byron has won at Atlanta twice. In the reconfigured, drafting-style era of this speedway, only a small handful of drivers have managed multiple Cup victories here, and Byron is one of them, alongside names like Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski. This is a place he has figured out. He understands the draft here, the lanes, the timing. He knows how to win at this track because he has actually done it more than once. So when a driver with that specific resume at that specific track tells his crew chief that the car is terrible, that is not a tantrum. That is a diagnosis. That is the most reliable, most experienced possible source in the world telling you that the machine underneath him is genuinely broken. Byron's frustration isn't the story here. Byron's frustration is the evidence. And that reframe matters enormously because it points directly at the real issue, which is the number 24 team's season as a whole. And let's be honest and precise about that season, because the picture is genuinely complicated. William Byron is still winless in 2026. Sit with that for just a moment. A driver of his caliber at Hendrick Motorsports deep into the month of July without a single victory to his name. But, and this part is crucial, this has not actually been a bad season. He arrived at Atlanta with 4 top 5 finishes, 9 top 10 finishes, and 136 laps led on the year. He sat 12th in the championship standings. That is not a broken driver, and it is not a broken team. That is a team with real, demonstrable speed that simply has not managed to convert it into a trip to victory lane. And that is precisely why a night like Sunday stings as badly as it does. The chase is coming. The regular season is running out of races, and every single weekend that passes without a victory turns up the pressure on a team that has been quietly good all year, but never quite great when it counted. Byron didn't need a disaster at Atlanta. He needed momentum. He needed one night where the car was right underneath him and he could finally convert speed into a win. Instead, he got a car he couldn't drive, a lengthy storm delay that stretched deep into the night, a 17th place finish, and elimination from $1 million tournament at the hands of the very man who won the race. That is about as complete and comprehensive a bad night as this sport can possibly hand a driver. So the honest takeaway here isn't that William Byron cracked under pressure. It's that the calmest, most composed driver in NASCAR was pushed to a place where even he couldn't hold it together. At a track he has genuinely mastered, in a season where the wins simply will not come. And what happens next depends entirely on whether Hendrick Motorsports can figure out what actually went wrong with that car on Sunday. Because the speed is clearly still in this team. 4 top 5s and 9 top 10s are proof of that. But raw speed on its own doesn't win races. And William Byron, more than anybody, knows exactly how loudly the clock is ticking right now. So now I want to hear from you. Was William Byron's radio frustration completely justified? Or should the calmest man in the garage have found a way to keep it together? And the bigger question, does the number 24 team turn this around and finally get a win before the chase begins? Or is this season quietly slipping away from them? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe to Freedom Line News, where we cover every NASCAR story with the detail it actually deserves. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.